6 months ago, this exact tree gave me the worst tree ice cream we've made so far. Oh, there. Oh. No. But where once there were blossoms that smelled like trash, dead fish, or, I don't know, a boy's locker room, we now have these teeny tiny fruit that are not great either. But you know what? I think it's only fair to see if redemption is on the menu for the Bradford Pear tree. That's right, it's time for another episode of Tree Ice Cream. Yes, I am revisiting the calorie pear, also known as the flowering pear or Bradford pear, which back in April in a YouTube short, I had gathered some of its infamously odorous blossoms, washed them off, infused them into a cream base, an activity which stunk up my kitchen as a harbinger of what was to come. Then, after churning it up and, as always, handcrafting a bowl and spoon out of Bradford pear wood, it was time to taste what instantly became the foulest tasting bowl of tree ice cream thus far. Bon appetit. Oh no. Oh no, the water makes it worse. The water activates the Bradford pear blossom flavor. This stale, fishy, it's like I can smell the Bradford pear tree in my mouth. It's not strong, but I hate it. I really hate it. Would love to give a blind taste test of this. I don't know, you tell me, would you try this? Does anyone want to try this? F. We need a redemption arc. This just makes me sad inside. And a redemption arc is exactly what I hope is in store for us today. Those blossoms that get a lot of attention for being as smelly as they are pretty have now become the tree's actual fruit, tiny calorie pears. These things are rock hard and not super palatable. If you bite into one, you'll find that they're quite hard, tart, and extremely dry, very likely high in tannins. But I do feel hopeful that with enough sugar, they'll make for a tasty syrup. So I brought a whole bunch of them home and have rinsed them off, and I'm just gonna painstakingly de-stem each one of them. Let's also cut one open. As you can see, there's a tiny bit of flesh, some small seeds, very little juice or anything though. Like little pebbles they feel. Now I'm just gonna wing this a bit. Gonna combine a bunch of them with some sugar over heat to see what we can coax out of the fruit. And it's clear I needed to add some water, so let's do that. And let this all simmer for a couple of hours actually. I'm stirring occasionally and checking on it, adding more water when it feels like it needs some. And I'm getting some really interesting aromas from this. A far cry from how the blossoms smelled, that's for sure. This rich, almost smoky, caramelized smell. Not at all what I was expecting. Once it felt well extracted, I pulled it off the heat and then I strained, and wow, what a lovely color we have here. Kind of surprised, really, with the fruit being that dull green color. Was not expecting this rich reddish pink. That's really cool. So now that it's strained, just gonna reduce it a bit, and my gut tells me that a small pinch of malic acid is gonna help punch this up just a bit, add some needed tartness, so I'm gonna toss that in as well. Then once it's to a nice syrupy consistency, just gonna pull this off the heat, and it's on to the next step, chopping up some chunks of Bradford pear wood to flavor the ice cream base. Once I've gathered them up, it's just a matter of rinsing and soaking, and then placing them on a baking sheet into a 350-degree oven for about 15 to 30 minutes, just looking for a toasty aroma and checking to make sure that they don't overbake. Then, of course, it's time to make an ice cream base. Now, a lot of people ask me what my preferred ice cream base recipe is, and I've really liked the Philadelphia-style base recipe found in Dana Cree's book, Hello, My Name is Ice Cream. I've just been toying around with the ratios there a bit to land on a consistency that I prefer. Now just adding the still warm wood chunks to the boiling base, letting that simmer for a couple of minutes before removing from heat and covering to let infuse for a half an hour. Then just gonna strain, cool, and strain once more before covering and letting hang out in the fridge overnight. Now, I feel like we could add one more component here, and a Bradford pear syrup ribbon sounds to me like it's asking to be paired with something like a streusel. Bring to mind like a cobbler or a crisp or a crumble. So I'm gonna make a brown butter version here, just browning and cooling the butter, adding vanilla extract, and then adding all that to a mixture of flour, sugars, baking powder, salt, cinnamon, and allspice, and then mixing by hand until clumpy, and spreading that all out on a baking sheet to bake in the oven, mixing and jostling halfway through, and then finishing the bake until toasty and browned. And that's all there is to it. This is now ready to join the Bradford Pear syrup in our ice cream base. Speaking of which, it's time to get to churning. And now with the ice cream good and churned, we just layer ice cream, syrup, streusel, and repeat until it's all full. And this goes into the freezer to firm up, which means it's time to head down to the wood shop to make a bowl and spoon out of Bradford Pear wood.
But first, I want to thank the sponsor of this episode of Tree Ice Cream, Huckberry. I've been a big fan of Huckberry since long before this partnership, but working with them has only made me want to recommend them even more. It's a fantastic one-stop shop where you can find highly curated clothing and gear from high-quality brands. And now, with a little bit of bite of that fall weather in the air, it's a perfect time to stock up on new clothing and gear. I mean, come on, it's sweater season, and I am currently obsessed with this recycled cotton Headlands roll neck sweater from Flint & Tinder. It's cozy, warm, fashionable, and makes me feel like I want to just climb out of an old fishing boat. This Relwyn wind zip jacket has also become an instant cool weather fave. Really soft, comfortable, and versatile, and perfect for those crisp autumnal evenings. This appropriately named cabin flannel overshirt from Flint & Tinder is another quick favorite. It's got me really trying to very slowly build that cabin fund. And one of the things I really love that they do is the way their personal stylists will offer outfit options for each individual item of clothing. So if you're like me and you can kind of struggle to pull an outfit fully together, they've got you covered there. I also always have to shout out their newsletter. I've been subscribed to it for years. You not only get the latest gear and clothing sent directly to your inbox, but also awesome articles and content as well. I mean, listen, if you're into the whole woodsy, crafty, outdoorsy feel of this channel, you will love Huckberry. So be sure to head over to huckberry.com, or even better, click the link in the description to go shop and get your cool weather wardrobe looking top notch. For now, let's get to making that bowl. You guys, this has been a journey, let me tell you. If we can finally turn this into a bowl to eat our Bradford Pear ice cream out of, I will consider myself victorious. This has been a wild ride. So, a couple things. One, I think like 2 weeks ago, I threw this piece of wood on the lathe, planned on this being like this tall, slender goblet to make our Bradford Pear Redemption ice cream eating experience a little fancy, a little fun, full of some cracks, but who cares? Just adds to the experience. And well, a couple things happened. One, was a little too long to comfortably cut the top of this. What happens when you've got a longer piece like this, long skinny piece, is you pull off the tailstock and you start carving into this top piece. And because it's so far from where it's being held here, this just has a tendency to want to wiggle a little bit more. It's further out, right? So you can buy or make jigs that'll hold there. You can also hand hold. I was trying a little bit of that, and this is a very hard piece of wood. It just wasn't really working out the way I wanted. And then I had been a little suspicious when I was first carving into this. I've got some plum wood from our last episode of Tree Ice Cream right next to some of the Bradford Pear, and I was suspecting, and as I carved a little bit deeper into this is definitely a piece of plum wood, not a piece of Bradford Pear. And I can't just pretend to fake you all out and say, oh, well, this is a piece of Bradford Pear. No. We got to stick to our principles here. Anyway, long story long, this started a couple weeks ago. What was already a slow-going episode just got even slower. If you didn't catch my most recent What's in That Pile episode, you may not know that my wife and I were expecting our first child this fall, and sure enough, she arrived last month. So I am also fully in new parent mode, which those of you that have kids of your own can attest, and those of you that don't have almost certainly heard new parents complain about it. Sleep is at a premium right now. So sleep and free time are both at premiums. So just trying to find time to come down here and work on this where I can. Anyway, I grabbed the last chunk of Bradford pear that felt sizable enough to make into a bowl. I'm envisioning something that kind of goes like this a little bit, especially just because we've got some of that going on there. So this is gonna be the bottom. I've got my big jaw chucks on here, so I'm not gonna screw in a faceplate. This will fit in this in the jaw chuck here. Let's get to cranking on this.
Now, this is normally where I'd share a lot of interesting facts about the calorie pear as a tree, and it's actually one that's really interesting to learn about. Good news is I have a video all about it in my invasive species series, so you can learn a lot more about it there if you'd like, including the truly fascinating person who traveled to remote corners of Asia to discover it and bring it to North America. So definitely go check out that video if you'd like, but some brief interesting highlights include that this now oft derided tree once received a glowing review in the New York Times saying, "Few trees possess every desired attribute, but the Bradford ornamental pear comes unusually close to the ideal." Chief among those attributes in the review were its showy white blossoms and ability to thrive in urban environments. All this has made it a staple of suburban landscapes across North America. Now, of course, as we talked about already, those flowers are infamous for their odor, which is meant to attract flies, as they are the primary pollinators of these trees. Now, as you probably know, a lot of people hold strong opinions about this tree. They are everywhere, they smell bad, they have weak crotches and often drop limbs in storms. And in many parts of the US, there are wild growing descendants of multiple varieties of calorie pears that have now become invasive. Still, it's not a tree without some defenders. There are many highly urbanized areas where all sorts of trees struggle to thrive, and this is a showy, reliable, and adaptable tree that can and will do well in places where others won't. Also, for some people, the blossoms don't smell like anything at all, which I guess I really need to have some of them try that first version of the ice cream. I'm genuinely curious, if you can't smell Bradford pear, does that ice cream taste good or okay to you? Very curious. Finally, I'll say this about Bradford pear wood. It's really awesome. Fine-grained, lovely color, great to work with. It turns like a dream. There's something that it has going for it for sure. I'm enjoying how this bowl has come together so far. It's a fun shape for this small piece of wood I had to work with. And look how that oil finish is making everything pop tremendous. A really lovely shade in that wood. Now, with the bowl all done, let's quickly make a spoon. And I'm still fully sold on variations of the little paddle spoons at this point. Done them a few episodes in a row now. I'm a huge fan. They're fun to make, much better for eating ice cream with, in my opinion. So I just cut a little blank out of the extra wood and gonna do a lot of bulk shaping on the sander. And check this out, one half was hiding a little crack in there, so I'm just gonna pull that piece off and gonna make this half the handle, just kind of shape it into this fun hook shape. Turn the fault in the wood into something interesting. Now some fine tuning with a little hand carving. Then sand it all smooth. And oil it up. And there we have it, a finished bowl and spoon made out of Bradford pear wood. I really like the way these two came together, which means it's finally time to scoop up this Bradford pear ice cream redux and see if I have indeed made a tasty ice cream from the same tree that once had me practically gagging. All right, let's find out. Okay, Bradford pear. That's good. That is very good. Wow. This all blends together really nicely. The Bradford pear fruit syrup is Tart and tangy, a little smoky, a little caramely. Brown butter streusel fits perfectly with it. And here we go. Went back to the container and just got like a spoonful of just the cream because I'm curious. Yeah, the wood cream is really good. I mean, it's really cool to go back-to-back fruit wood flavors. Last month was the plum wood flavored cream base, which had like an almondy undertone to it. And this Bradford pear cream base entirely different. A little more fruity, a little less smoky, none of that almond undertone at all. But this all works together extremely well. That is the sweet, sweet flavor of redemption. As always, huge thanks to all my patrons and members for supporting this channel. It's always such a relief to have so many of you in my corner, even when I have to take a little bit of time off as I have the last month. Hoping to ratchet things up, got some ideas I'm very excited about. But that doesn't mean we're done with tree ice cream, not by a long shot. So as always, let me know in the comments what tree you'd like to see me turn into ice cream next. As for rankings, the Bradford Pear Redemption is gonna rank quite high. We got Bradford Pear attempt number 1 at the bottom. I enjoyed this, but I do think Birch needs a redemption episode of its own. Oh, what did I have after Birch? Let's see. Cedar, hickory, spruce, mango. You know, I think I'm gonna put Bradford Pear just right alongside white oak. I think I give white oak the edge just because it's more of a surprising flavor. I don't know, just that oak wood. In the end, I like the flavor of the oak wood cream a little better than the Bradford Pear wood cream. Both quite good. Sassafras. Oh, no. Saved it. Oh boy. Magnolia. As I said last time, I think these two are basically functionally tied. Magnolia and plum. Ask me on the day. My answer's gonna change, but there we have them. All tree ice creams thus far. We'll see you next time.